Chapter 715, Madness in His Later Years. I've long obtained the potion formula of Knowledge Emperor from that most ancient organization. Now, it's time to seek the corresponding ingredients. It might already belong to a particular angel, and it might have fused with an object around it, turning into a warped and evil monster or a chaotic and terrifying sealed artifact. In short, I have to be careful. It's best that I find a suitable helper. Knowledge Emperor. This sequence 1 potion name is rather interesting. If I hadn't directly seen the blasphemy slate, I would have imagined that it belonged to the reader pathway, making it belong to the Church of the God of Knowledge and Wisdom. Even stranger, these 2 pathways aren't switchable. I once discussed this matter with that mysterious leader and old Mr. Hermes. We basically came to a consensus and believe that the reader pathway represents the omniscient part of omnipotent and omniscient. And the mystery prior and the savant pathways correspond to knowledge itself, which is categorized into 2 aspects. One is more about mystery, while the other is more about reality. When I become a knowledge emperor, Bernadette can stop worrying about the hidden sage's infusion of knowledge. She can also stop being afraid of pursuing knowledge. The emperor eventually switched to the mystery prior pathway. I wonder if he successfully became a knowledge emperor. Perhaps it's because of this that his ties with the Church of Steam completely fractured, making him the public enemy with no one to help him. All he could do was place his hopes on the Twilight Hermit Order. Klein thought poignantly as he came up with possible conjectures. Apart from that, he was rather interested in the Emperor's explanation of how the reader pathway wasn't interchangeable with the mystery prior and savant pathway. He believed that by deepening his understanding of it, he might be able to figure out the rules and rationale behind the interchangeability of Beyonder pathways. To the typical Beyonder, the reader, mystery prior, and savant pathway belong to the knowledge domain. There should be a very strong connection between them, yet the former is different. Reader belongs to the omniscient part of the phrase omnipotent and omniscient. Then, the secret suppliant, which is the shepherd pathway, is the omnipotent part. Then there must be a certain intersection between the 2. For example, being potent as a result of being erudite, and being erudite as a result of being potent. Therefore, they can be interchanged. Starting off from this angle, the storm pathway can be understood as omnipotence in the sea, land, and air domain. The spectator corresponds to the psyche, making it a powerful supplement for storm. Then, why can the sun pathway be interchanged with them? Considering how there was an ancient sun god who was deemed to be omnipotent and omniscient, does this mean that the sun pathway is the foundation that accommodates omnipotent and omniscient? Yes, according to such a thought process, mystery prior and savant are different aspects of knowledge itself. That's why they can be interchanged. Then, how is assassin and hunter differentiated? What about the Evernight, death, and god of combat pathways? In moments, Klein thought of many things, but he didn't have the time or sufficient knowledge to delve deeper into his analysis. All he could do was temporarily throw the corresponding questions to the back of his mind and will the 3rd diary page to the top of the stack. At a cursory glance, Klein suddenly became focused. This was because the diary page was very different from the past ones. It didn't have a date, and the words were spaced apart. Because it was the original copy, the weight placed on the page when the words were penned was obviously out of the ordinary. Klein swept through the page as the contents were reflected in his mind. No, impossible. How can that happen? If my predictions aren't wrong, I'm not the only one who met with that encounter. No, how can that happen? The thing that I saw tells me that everything will be destroyed. Likewise for everything I've created. No, I can't accept such an ending. I have to work hard to save myself. I can't rely on the 7 deities. As long as I ascend to the throne of Sequence 0, only then will I and the things I value be preserved. Should I attempt to pull Mr. Door back into the real world? No. Although he claims to be only a Sequence 1, I believe that he isn't just an ordinary Sequence 1. It's very likely that he will bring unexpected catastrophe upon me. The Chinese words, which were much larger than those on the first 2 pages, had occupied the yellowed piece of paper in a haphazard manner. There wasn't much content, but it left Klein's head throbbing painfully. Back when he was writing this diary entry, Emperor Roselle was very likely a Sequence 1 knowledge emperor. The content he wrote was infused with a potent sense of mystery and was colored with his emotions. This also meant that if Klein had read the contents in the real world, he might very well turn mentally unstable or go mad and lose control on the spot. Thankfully, Ma'am Hermit doesn't know Chinese. Otherwise, she would have mutated when she was memorizing the contents. Even if she doesn't understand Chinese, she must have found it especially tiring and draining. If one is exposed to it for extended periods of time, visual and auditory hallucinations can't be avoided. Furthermore, there's a high chance that early signs of losing control will appear. Klein thought, congratulating himself for his good luck. His focus quickly turned back onto the diary entry as a sense of puzzlement surfaced. What did the Emperor see that made him so emotional? His mood was also rather extreme. No, the agitation and rashness, as seen in the words, are a little abnormal. It doesn't match the image of someone who has occupied a high position for extended periods of time. It doesn't match the level of an angel. Even in his final days, he said that after he dies, he didn't care if floods deluge the heavens. He didn't lose his composure or appear that agitated back then. Who influenced him, or did something corrupt and pollute his thoughts? Also, he mentioned that he's not the only one who met with that encounter. What is he referring to? Transmigration. It's true that he isn't the only one who transmigrated for no baffling reason. There's also me, or even more. As thoughts flashed through his mind, Klein didn't waste any time. He made the 3 diary pages vanish as he smiled at Katlia. "Have you thought of the request?" Katlia bowed in preparation as she said, "I wish to know why Emperor Roselle went mad in his later years." Audrey, who was in the same row as her, blinked. She believed that she had heard wrongly, as she didn't expect Ma'am Hermit to immediately ask such a heavy question. Furthermore, how does she know that Emperor Roselle went mad in his later years? Also, she only handed 3 pages, so how can she ask a question of this magnitude? It doesn't abide by the principle of equivalent exchange. Audrey had many thoughts arise in her mind, but she didn't stop Ma'am Hermit's question. Instead, she waited for Mr. Fool's response with piqued interest and inexplicable excitement. Alger, Emlyn, and Fours similarly held their breaths. They cast their gaze at the end of the bronze table. Only Derek and the world seemed oblivious. Klein thought and chuckled. "First, we need to accept reality. I'm not omniscient, nor am I omnipotent." He had said those words in a relaxed, self-deprecating manner, but the hermit and company didn't show any signs of unrest. Instead, they appeared even more reverent. To them, it was obvious that Mr. Fool wasn't omnipotent and omniscient. Ignoring their guesses regarding Mr. Fool's state, this hidden existence's honorific name didn't have any related descriptions that explained the problem. Furthermore, none of the present true gods and evil gods had honorific names that involved omnipotence and omniscience. After setting their expectations, Klein began to answer the hermit's question. "I also wish to know what Roselle encountered in his later years. At present, it can be confirmed that due to an unknown cause and source of stimulation, Roselle cast his gaze on Sequence 0. He didn't explain what Sequence 0 corresponded to. In the Tarot Club, there were more people who knew of it than those who didn't. Even those who didn't know could have guessed something. Sequence 0, the Emperor wanted to become a god. It's no wonder that it said that he went mad in his later years." Audrey knew what Sequence 0 meant as she instantly sighed. Likewise for Alger. Katlia clearly knew what Sequence 0 implied. She expressed her gratitude while in thought as she retracted her gaze. Sequence 0. Emlyn and Fours ruminated over the phrase, as though they had just realized that there was a position above Sequence 1 that belonged to true gods. Derek looked at Mr. Fool with a muddled expression. He didn't understand what was wrong with Emperor Roselle's attempt, someone who had a strong presence in history. In the City of Silver, if anyone had the chance, every resident would wish to become a Sequence 0 true god, so as to create a more sustainable living environment or to lead everyone out of the Forsaken Land. Klein didn't elaborate as he leaned back into his chair and surveyed the area. "You may begin." With that said, he controlled the world to look at Derek before smiling deeply. The notary potion formula you want has been acquired. Thank you, Mr. World. According to the agreement, I will remember the debt and await your request, Derek said sincerely. All right. Klein gave a response by controlling the world before making a show of him, requesting Mr. Fool to conjure the formula. Before long, the potion formula was in Little Sun's hands. Derek received it in glee as he ravenously scanned the contents of the goatskin. Sequence 6, Notary. Main ingredients: 1 set of crystallized roots of the Tree of Elders, 5 feathers of a spirit-packed bird. Supplementary ingredients: 100 ml of Radiant Spirit-Packed Trees juice, 1 golden-rimmed sunflower, 1 white-trimmed sunflower, 5 drops of aqua fern juice. Without waiting for the others to speak, the world looked at Alger and said once more, "As you know, I have your Ocean Songster Potion formula and main ingredient." Audrey and company were momentarily dumbfounded. Katlia couldn't hide her alarm as she looked at the world. She vividly remembered that Jayaman Sparrow had just hunted Slaughterer Kirches a week ago. How did he obtain the Ocean Songster Potion formula and main ingredient? Don't tell me he killed an Ocean Songster. That would be considered a quasi-high-ranking member in the Church of Storms. It's only been a week. Katlia found this unrealistic.